You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go. Where did that lady come from? The Iron Lady sings, that makes it official. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. Being here for 16 years, 2,000 episodes, we've been bringing you all the smartest people, the greatest authors, the people who are putting out some of the greatest stories, things that can motivate you to improve the quality of your life, learn better how to do things, or just entertain you when it really comes down to it as well. Today we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about her new book. She's a multi-book author, and she's done a few other things as well. Her newest book is out September 3rd, 2024. It's called 5-Dog Epiphany. Sorry, this is cracking me up. 5-Dog Epiphany. How a quintet of badass Bichons retrieved our joy, by Marianne Leone. She joins us on the show today. We'll be talking to her about her book. She's got an amazing career as well. She is an American film and television actress, screenwriter, and essayist. Her longest running recurring role, you may remember, was on The Sopranos, Christopher's mother. And everyone remembers that show. What a great show that was. So we're going to be talking to her about her new book. Welcome to the show, Marianne. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Chris?
I am excellent as well. And we're here to talk about my favorite subject, dogs, because I love dogs.
Do you have a dog?
I have 2 huskies.
Beauties.
So yeah, I live in the land of shedding fur all the time. That's the new title of my next bio book, The Land of Shedding Fur. So give us your .coms, Marianne. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Okay, so my much neglected website, which is being updated as we speak, is www.marianneleonecooper.com, because there was another Marianne Leone who spelled her name exactly like mine. And so I used my husband's last name, Cooper. And and I'm on Instagram as at Strega54. And Threads the same. And yeah, that's about it.
And we should get a plug-in for your husband, too, who's a famous actor as well.
Yes.
There Chris you go. Cooper. Chris Cooper, yeah.
But
American Beauty. Remember that movie? Whoa, that was something else.
Better, he is a wonderful man also.
There you go. Well, there you go. It's good to be married to a wonderful man, I hear, for the ladies.
Yes.
That's always good. I always remember that ending lines in American Beauty about life and appreciating life. It always keeps me grateful when I think of loss, when I lose things. So let's get into 5-Dog Epiphany. Tell us a 30,000 overview of your new book.
Well, it's really because, we lost our son, Jesse, at age 17. Jesse was born prematurely, 10 weeks early. And on the 3rd day of his life, he developed, he had a massive brain bleed. And so he developed cerebral palsy after that. And, we lived in New York City. We moved out to Hoboken. But when he came of age to go to school, we moved to Massachusetts because this was pre-internet. I couldn't really do that much research. But what I found out was that Massachusetts was above the national average for inclusion for kids with disabilities. And New York had 7% inclusion, which was terrible. And so we moved here, but then we moved to the one town that had a special ed director who basically didn't believe in inclusion and was quoted as saying, "Why should we spend money on these kids? They don't give anything back to society." So never piss off an Italian mother. I will kill you. I said to my husband, he's getting a dead horse's head in his bed and he's not going to have a job when I'm done with him. And there were 6 lawsuits that year, and he lost his job. And Jesse went to school. Nice. And he was on the honor roll every month, every semester. And he wrote beautiful poetry, but he was nonverbal and used a wheelchair. So but one thing he did say to Santa Claus when he was 6 years old, with every fiber of his being, he said, "Dog." And I turned to Chris and said, he's getting a dog. So we did the wrong thing because we didn't know about puppy mills then. This was like 94.
Yeah.
So we go to the mall and we get little Goody, who Jesse named, and but he was from a puppy mill, and they're unhealthy, these dogs, and they're born to breeder mothers who are bred over and over again.
Yeah.
So, but as long as Jesse was alive, he was Jesse's first sibling, and they were thick as thieves, the two of them.
Oh, well, that was great. It made him happy.
Oh,
then.
Totally.
They
swam together. They did everything together.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, after Jesse died, I was like a living embodiment of the body keeps the score. And I grew a giant tumor the size that Jesse was at birth.
Oh, wow.
It's a preemie, 3.5 pounds. And Goody died the day after that surgery to remove what I called the not Jesse. And so I was recovering, like some neurasthenic Victorian lady on the sofa watching television. And I just felt like I started looking at Pet Finder again. And I found these two orphans of the storm, Lucky Dog and French Fry.
Oh, wow.
And we got our first rescues, Lucky Dog and French Fry. And then they were with us. I know they had very silly names, but they were the poor things were in a puppy mill for the first 3 years of their lives. But they were with us 13 years. They both died at 17 during the COVID lockdown.
Oh, wow.
And I said to Chris, a dogless household is bleak. We're in lockdown. And he was like, I'm still mourning Frenchie. I was like, yeah, but. So we got these two dogs, girl dogs from Louisiana with pole dancer names, TT and Sugar. And I did not name them, as I keep explaining to people. And the thing is, TT was a fear biter, so nobody was adopting her because she had been kept in a cage for 6 years, was a breeder, giving up one litter after another.
Wow.
And the owner, who I dream of my revenge on this guy, let the harness grow into her flesh. So she was a fear biter after that. Wow. And nobody was adopting her, but of course we adopted her.
Well, there you
go. And also we paired her with another dog because we had learned from Lucky and Frenchie that it's kind of great to have two dogs because, you go out and you're gone for a few hours, you come back, your dog's looking at you like, where have you been? I've been so bereft, and that ended when we had Lucky and Frenchie, who barely looked up from the chaise lounge, which is their $1,500 dog bed. I mean, basically, they appropriated our chaise lounge.
They have a habit of doing that. Don't
Yeah.
they?
So
this is interesting. I could never name a dog French Fry or Sugar.
Oh God, no!
Because every time I would call their name, I'd be like, I want to go to McDonald's, and I shouldn't go to McDonald's. But they fill your heart. Now, were these the start of the Bichons? These 5 Bichons that you write about?
You get hooked on a breed. Basically, I wanted that first, Goody, because I had looked up what would be good for a kid in a wheelchair. They're lap dogs. They don't shed. They look like Muppets, which Jesse loved.
They're not Huskies.
Yeah. Although I love all dogs, I do,
Yeah.
and cats, and even
Yeah.
foxes
Yeah.
that I have tried to lure into my pack with no success.
The more I get to know humans, the more I love dogs.
There you go. It's absolutely true.
So it gets into it. My family had the same experience. My fourth sister was born with complications. They think she may have choked on something coming down the pipe and cut off her airways. And she was black and blue coming out. And so they whisked her away right away. She had brain damage, cerebral palsy. She could see, but she couldn't see. So if she looked in the light, she could see shadows moving.
Oh.
And so we had a similar experience. She lived to about 40. Wow. Wasn't a fun life for her, but...
Yeah. Jesse, on the other hand, went everywhere. I mean, his dad had these great locations, right? So here's the kid in LA, he's in Italy, he's in Prague, he's, and here's this little boy who was more sophisticated than any of the kids in his class, because, I mean, the guy never flew coach in his life. I mean,
well, he had a maid.
Not because of us. It was because, they would fly us to wherever Chris's locations were. But
nice.
Yeah, I mean, he went everywhere and did everything we could do for him,
There you go.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. We like to get into the author as well. Tell us about how you were raised, how you grow up. Did you grow up with dogs? What kind of shaped you into getting into being an actress?
I'm a first generation. My parents were Italian immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in this place 7 miles outside of Boston where everybody who was Italian was from the same village, this little tiny village in Italy.
Oh.
So, and there's still quite a sizable population like that. They still paint the Italian flag down the main drag every year for their festa, And so I grew up there, and my immigrant parents sadly thought that how good can public school be? It's free. So they sent me to Our Lady Help of Christians, which was 13 years of hell.
It's free. How good could it be? It's free.
Exactly. Because in Italy, you pay for everything but the air you breathe, right? So they sent me to parochial school, which was not great for me, because the only books we read were Lives of the Saints and books on leprosy. So, and the nuns would not give you a recommendation for a non-Catholic college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Unless you were good.
I ended up going to a state college on my own. And so.
Were you scarred from the religious experience? Do you have any nuns wrap you on the knuckles and all that?
They didn't hit me because my mother would have killed them, but I am of the same ilk, but they did tell us horrible stories like, will you be able to stand up and defend your faith when the Chinese communists ram bamboo shoots down your fingernails and put garden hoses up to your ear and turn them on full blast? And of course I knew I'd turn in my parents in a heartbeat. So I never slept again after that. I was just
the
guilt. It was huge. And the fear was bad too. I mean,
jeez, it's a horrible mantle to have to wear as a child. You're like, it's like when you're a kid and you're watching, the fire bear. What's his name? He's like,
Smokey.
Only you. Smokey the bear. He's like, only you can prevent forest fires. You're like, me?
Yeah.
I'm just a kid. I'm 10 years old. Why is this fall on me?
But I just lay awake every night. I was afraid that the Blessed Virgin would appear to me because I was really well aware that any of the kids that saw her kind of didn't live to adulthood. You know what I mean? So I thought it would be.
I'm usually laying in bed hoping the Blessed Virgin appears. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so there you go. So how do you eventually go ahead?
Yeah, so that was my upbringing, and then I go to New York. I take an acting class in. First, I think I want to be a journalist, which is probably good that I wasn't because I'm so judgmental. But it was instead I took an acting class and thought this is it, and then we had to go on retreat before we could graduate, kind of like going up before a parole board, and. They actually, I don't know why, but they showed La Strada with Giulietta Messina. And I thought, I want to do what she's doing. I'm doing that. And so I went to New York and I met my husband in acting class.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Which acting school did you go to?
It wasn't a school. It was taught by Win Hanman, who ran the American Place Theater. Do you know, are you familiar with that theater? He gave a lot of people their start, like Sam Shepard and John Leguizamo. And anyway, he was great. And I was getting class free in exchange for keeping the very long waiting list. And one night, the guy from the mid-level class comes in with this very scared, rabbity looking guy who doesn't even look me in the eye. And he says, this guy's starting tonight. And I say, no, because I have this huge list. And he says, no, he's starting. And it was Chris. And he did a monologue. And then Wynn said, wow, does that guy know how good he is? And I was like, damn, he's
You almost blocked your husband's career?
I know. So bad. But,
wow. Well, at least you made up for it, technically, I guess. Some way or another. La Strada, Giulietta Messina?
Yeah.
There you go. What was it that you liked about her?
She looked lit from within. She just was lit from within, and I wanted to shine like that.
Britney Spears does that for sometimes. Anyway, I don't know what that means. Sometimes it involves knives. Anthony Quinn, what a great actor he was too in that movie as well. I always loved him as an actor. I don't know why.
He was wonderful.
I just thought he was great. He was so powerful on the screen. So there you go.
To take a job with Fellini and be dubbed was pretty amazing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you've how did you get on The Sopranos? That's
well,
famous role there.
What was really weird was I had acted before that, but then when we had Jesse, I started writing because we couldn't both be away, and Chris was getting a lot of work at the time. So I submit my scripts through a writing agent, and they're interested in the scripts. But then I get a call from my acting agent. My acting agent doesn't work much for me and says they want to see you. And I go in, and there's David Chase, and I want to fall to my knees and worship him because I think the show is so well written. I can't even, and my agent calls after the audition. I say, I totally blew it because I was like reverential to David Chase. And he's like, no, you got the job. They really liked you.
Wow.
So that was cool. And then on the set, you know everybody because we've all been typed out, right? You're too ethnic for anything else but Chef Boyardee commercials. So we also all knew each other in a lot of ways,
Wow.
So it was kind of a great setting to be in.
It was probably great to work with a lot of those great actors that were on that show.
Totally.
I was really bummed when what's-his-face died. The actor,
James Gandolfini.
Yeah,
he was
really
lovely. And you want to hear
away.
something really weird was when we moved to Hoboken with baby Jesse, we rented a brownstone. His father owned the brownstone. And this was before he was famous. And I remember him saying, yeah, my son wants to be an actor. I don't think he's going to get anywhere. And then I saw him at a premiere, and I was like, hey, Mr. Gandolfini, remember when you told me you didn't think your son would get anywhere? And he was like, So.
Well, I remember I first saw him and noticed him in what was the John Travolta movie that was the comedy mob movie that was so good?
I can't remember.
It was Get Shorty. And he played the kind of bouncer stunt man dude to one of the actors there. But there was something about him on the screen.
He's lovely. He was a beautiful, kind man, and he was able to do every aspect of that role beautifully, as were everybody on that set. I really enjoyed all the people I worked with.
And then you were my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies. Godfather has to take number one, of course, but Goodfellas.
Except Chris, all that's left of me is my name in the
really?
credits. I was in 3 scenes with dialogue, all cut.
You should sue.
I'm not going to sue because I get residuals.
Really?
And
That's freaking awesome.
And I got Scorsese's mother's meatball recipe too, because she was sitting right beside me in the mob makeup scene. Yeah. Where she was like giving me her ultimate Sicilian meatball recipe, and you couldn't argue with her and say, but this is how, no, this was it. And also yelling to her son, Marty, how long we got to wait here?
Marty. Yeah, I think I saw his mother. There was like a documentary.
Oh yeah, Italian American. That was a great documentary.
And how he always put his mother in the movies.
Yes.
And it was just so funny to watch how she, she's definitely a strong woman.
And speaking of dogs, Edie Falco, who blurbed my book, she used to bring her dog to set all the time.
There you go.
And
So at what point do you become the 5-dog family? When does this start
we never had 5 dogs at once. It was just one after another. And,
so it's a compilation.
Yes, it's all
dogs
the dogs
and dealing with grief. What do you find? One of the problems I have is the loss of dogs being grief.
Yeah.
And that's a whole bucket of worms. Yeah. I think I've grieved more over my dogs than I have of any relatives or anybody close to me.
Well, once it's a child, though, you never get over that ever.
I haven't had that.
But the dogs, you're right. I mean, you grieve them because they're family members, and they each have their unique little personalities. And but it wasn't grieving the passing of these dogs that I wanted to highlight. What I wanted to talk about was how taking these damaged dogs, especially the latter dogs, taught us I don't know, how to deal with our grief and rediscover joy, because as these dogs emerged from their traumas and started to become full-fledged dogs and experience joy, you experienced some kind of reflected joy from that. You know what I mean? The first time I saw Titi playing with a ball, I cried because she didn't have any toys in that cage. She didn't, you know what I mean? And the first time I saw her on her back doing that thing that dogs do when they go into an ecstasy, you know, which I call dogasms. I mean, I was just never so happy as to see that it eased something in me to see her, you know, come back from that. And she's discovering, she is our dog that we have now, who is the most abused of any dog that I've ever had, with the harness growing into her flesh and all. But to see her every day discovering something new, like we took her, you know, I dropped the leash a long time with her because she knows where the chicken is. She stays with us. And we were walking in the Bay Farm, which is this beautiful bayside place where Jesse's ashes are even there. And I saw her, she spotted a rabbit, and she ran off. And then she came running back like, I saw a rabbit, but now I'm coming back. We were like, it was just so wonderful to see. That's what you're supposed to be doing as a dog, you know?
Exactly. The coming back part, too. Tell that to my dogs. My dogs are huskies, so when they go for something, they never come back.
Well, that's why Sugar, the other dog who has terrier, she's leashed, because she'll be like squirrel and gone.
She's got that gone.
Yeah.
You know, animals tend to heal us. My animals made me a better person, I think, which is saying something, because people in the audience are like, he still needs work. I'm seeing a therapist, leave me alone. But for 16 years, he's needed help. We all knew. But you know, they have a way of crawling into your soul and changing you. My huskies changed me. They made me a better person. They made me more empathetic. I think I was I think probably picked up a little bit of narcissistic from my father, but I used to be really I don't know, just a logic and reason sort of emotionless sort of dude. I'm like, I'm sure people know I love them because I do things for them, sort of thing. And my dogs really open me up to humanness and kindness and the fact that they know when you're hurting, when
it's
you're
amazing.
really stressed.
It's amazing.
And they come and they're like, hey, if you pet us, you'll feel better.
Yeah,
Just play with us a bit.
Titi and I have had these long heart-to-hearts, just without words, of course. And I see her. They immediately came to sleep with us, which the other dogs never did. These two were like, if I get my water at night, Titi's like, all right, hurry up. She's going to bed. Let's go. and they jump up on the bed, and there's a memory quilt on the bed of Jesse's T-shirts. And the first time I saw her on her back in ecstasy on the T-shirt, I thought, oh my God, this is like Jesse's healing her and she's healing me. It was beautiful. It was like this transmission of just something beautiful through all of that.
There you go. And you've written a couple books. You wrote a story of your son Jesse, Knowing Jesse, a Mother's Grief, Story of Grief, Grace, and Everyday Bliss. I think people that have lost a child can appreciate that. Ma Speaks Up, a first-generation daughter talks back. That should be fun.
My mother was an amazing woman. She came here at the age of 16 to get away from fascism, kind of ironic, and an arranged marriage to an old man. And she meets my father, and they marry, and they're very much in love. But my father died young, 50, and she was 43, English as a second language, no marketable skills outside of cooking, which she was a fantastic cook, and 3 kids. So she starts cooking in this kind of mob restaurant, and then she becomes a bookie.
Oh, wow.
She was just a riot. And my girlfriends and I still quote her because she was so fun. I mean, when she meets Chris, she's like, I don't know what you see in her. She goes, walk around, smoke, talk, act crazy. She was kind of right, but.
Wow.
Yeah. And when she met Chris, she was like, she figured anybody who wasn't Italian must be Irish, because where we were from, it was mostly Irish and Italian. So she'd continually be like, Chris, you like a drink? You know, she wanted to know if he,
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have lived an amazing life, and dogs just make it so much better. I imagine
Absolutely.
you're a big proponent for rescue adoption.
Totally, totally. I mean, what you can do to empty those, first of all, if you bought a puppy from a breeder, spay the puppy. Don't create more dogs that end up in rescue, in kennels. And I am a big proponent of that. It's
Definitely.
yeah. I
You
could
know,
be, when we were interviewed for these two, for Lucky and Frenchie, this lady came in and she, and, they give you this interview to see if you're worthy. And she told me she had 9 Pomeranians, and I did judge her at the time. But now I feel like I certainly have been like, yeah, I could have more Bichons, so
that's a new bar for you. Yeah, wait.
it
She
really
can handle
did.
9. I can only handle 2 at a time because I have 2 hands.
Yes,
And
I
so
hear you.
when both of them come to me and they're like, we both want attention. And of course, they compete. So if one comes for attention, the other one has to come for attention. They both have to come at once. And so I've only got 2 hands, so you got to be able to pet them. And I'll sit there and pet them, and sometimes they'll be in my office, and there's one on each side of the chair, right? And they're like, "You
Beautiful.
gotta pet us, Dad. Get up and give us some treats and stuff." They're always hustling.
They're really
And
smart, though, right?
yeah,
That breed.
they're a
Yeah.
little too smart.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
and so I sit there with petting them with both hands, going, "This is why I only have 2 dogs, and I'd love to have
I
more,
hear you.
but I don't know how I would do this if all 3 were fighting for my attention."
Yeah.
And but they're just lovable. I sometimes have a dream of if I ever retired. I don't know. I like working. I like what I do. And but if I ever like retired, semi-retired, I don't know what you call it. But if I ever did that, I would. I'd love to do like a wolf um, save place,
Oh, that would be
recovery,
beautiful.
save wolves, or even just huskies. Have like 100 huskies or something. And I clearly have to have enough money to pay for all the poop shoveling because I ain't doing that.
Unless you
And
get volunteers.
yeah, unless I get volunteers. Right? So yeah, you've got all that going on, and but I love dogs. I mean, they're just so great. I
I
wish I
adore
could
them.
have more.
And we had a fox that was coming to visit for a while. And I was feeding the fox, and I thought, can I get a canid in with the canines? But he went off on his own way. But I did get a picture of him smiling up at me, which was really, really cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what do you hope people come away with when they read your book?
Well, it's not like a self-help book in that way. This is my own experience. But after we lost Jesse, I did want to read about other people, how they dealt with grief. And
Mhm.
this is one way. It might not be your way, but
Mhm.
I just wanted to write something that explained what that was like in our case, and I don't purport to say that it's for everybody, but it's a unique story.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful story. It's my dogs in the times of my life that I've been challenged, that I've dealt with loss. I mean, there was one point in 2008 we lost all of our companies, we lost our businesses. Our biggest company was a mortgage company, so that didn't fare well. And 20 years of owning a mortgage company just all down the toilet overnight.
God.
And everything else that we had. I mean, the economy just came to complete stop and was like, nah, we're not doing anything.
Right.
So as an entrepreneur, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
But losing everything except for my dogs, and my dogs being there with me through that experience, I mean, I mean, it's so cathartic in helping you get through those moments of loss and challenges of life. And even when I'm stressed or upset about something, they come to me and they're like, "Hey, man, you need to calm down, or you're going to have a heart attack."
Or you need to give us treats.
Yeah,
That.
they hustle me
Yes.
every time I go to the kitchen. They're just like, treat
Oh,
time.
these girl dogs, you have no idea what these girls had going. They were bullying the hell out of me when I
Yeah?
first got them. I mean, Sugar perfected this low growl. She's like, I'm going to sleep with you guys. I know your husband's a light sleeper, so I'm going to emit this low growl until you take me out. So,
Mine are huskies. They bitch me out every morning before the treats when I'm trying to get up and hobble my way to the coffee maker.
Exactly.
And I'm like my girlfriends will say I'm like a bear in the morning. So
Yes.
I'm just like a bear is coming out of hibernation, and like no one should talk to me, no one should get near me. People will die
Yes,
if they're going to get the bear paw. And so usually they're just barking at me and hustling me, that husky talk back.
Yes, they're very talkative, aren't they? They really,
yeah. They're a little too talkative sometimes.
No,
And,
these girls, I did finally train them not to wake me up, and what we did was, because we're insane, we moved from our very posh bedroom downstairs to the guest room upstairs because it's near the deck and I can just let them out onto the deck in the morning. Way easier than struggling into a coat in 8-degree weather and taking them to the Bay Farm, right?
This sounds like one of those things where the dogs train you and
absolutely
you don't train them.
They have totally trained me.
If you're moving whole rooms in the house to
totally. And the cooking thing, it's like I cook for them. They get, besides stealing, Chris and I get invited to these, charity things because he's a celebrity. And I've been to them where they're serving filet mignon. I don't eat beef, but I've learned to take a plastic bag inside my fancy purse. And not only my filet mignon goes in, but maybe there'll be a captain of industry with half-gnawed filet mignon. And I will say, are you finished with that? And then that goes in the bag. And it does my heart. It's karmic justice for these little imprisoned dogs to get filet mignon. You know what I mean?
You go up to Steven Spielberg. Hey, you going to finish that?
Exactly. So
you gonna finish that steak there? I gotta take that one away.
Yeah, this has been my MO for some time now.
Well, it's good, Emma. I think everyone gets it and loves dogs. So give us your final thoughts and pitch out to people to pick up your book as we go out. And .com is where people can find you on the interwebs.
Well, what I want to say to people is that I know I'm talking about grief and I'm talking about rescue dogs, but a lot of this book is funny. So. Because in my first book, I was never happier than when Dennis Leary said, I laughed and I cried and then I laughed again. I was like, put that on the front because people are afraid to buy books about grief in this country, right?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of this book is funny and a lot of it is, if you love dogs and especially if you love rescues, you will be heartened by this book.
Definitely. Dogs are the best people. I really don't think we deserve them, but
hell no.
I think they're gracious enough to put up with us and allow us to live. As long as those treats keep rolling, I think
that's right, and they get great treats.
That's motivation. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Chris.
Thank you very much, Marianne. And please come back for your future books if you're working on any. You've got, I think, 4 or 5 under your belt, right?
I have 3. This makes 3, but remember the Catholic school event I told you about? Yeah. There's a whole bunch of short stories based on that. And in fact, if you go on my website, MarianneLeoneCooper.com, under videos, you'll see Chris and me reading from one of them, and Chris plays an old Italian grandpa in it, and he nails it.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe there can be a movie or a TV show we can make out of this somehow.
I don't know.
You probably know how to do that better than I do. Well, thank you very much for coming to the show, Marianne. Thanks so much for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. You can order the show too, but it's free.
But indie booksellers like bookshop.org.
There you go.
Or your local indie bookstore.
There you go. Support your local bookstore. They need all the help they can get there.
They do.
There's nothing like going into one of those old bookstores that's been around for a million years.
Beautiful.
And they've got all these great books. I love them. 5 Dog Epiphany, How a Quintet of Badass Bichons Retrieved Our Joy. Out September 3rd, 2024. You can pre-order it now wherever fine books are sold. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Foss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Foss. Chris Foss, one of the TikTokity, all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.